capacity crowd, well done. Amazing, amazing. Hello, I'm Mark Murphy and welcome to this week's edition of Life's Pitch TV. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast, you are most welcome. A massive thank you to our main sponsor, DPS Tech, also to our other sponsors, All About Hearing, marketing company Ginger Pickle, Forward Floors, Come Hither Design, the Hudson Group, Sound 4 Pro Audio, Venue 16, Fred Olsen Logistics, John Keeble Cars in Bramford, and the Dove in Ipswich. Without them, we couldn't do the show. Let me introduce to the team, of course, it's Terry Butcher. And next to her, it's Russell Osman. And behind BT's bar, Phil Ham from twtd.co.uk. Along with a very seasonal-looking Ed Sheeran over there as well with his Santa hat on, looking very, very fetching tonight, Ed. And Ted Lasso's got his town hat on because it's starting to get a little bit cold, so we're dressing up the set ready for Christmas. We've got lots to talk about tonight, but we mustn't forget Richard and John and Mark on technicals. And also our capacity crowd. You are absolutely brilliant. Good crowd, Butch.
The best crowd we've ever had.
Fantastic.
I tell you, they've made more noise than that crowd did last week, and there was a lot more in that building last week.
Well, I thought it was a great crowd last week. But did any of you see the Christmas special last week? Yeah. Now the thing is, there was obviously a blue tint to the lights because it was an Ipswich Town show, and all of us are starting to go a little bit, well, with the exception of Phil, grey. And it looked like we're all standing on stage with a blue rinse. I don't know if you saw Mrs. Slocum last week on stage.
Well, you do look a bit like Mrs. Slocum.
Thank you, Mr. Grace.
I'm going to call you Mr. Slocum.
Just one quick point. People that look after everything for us and do such a great job. Left me upside down, haven't they?
Oh, right, okay. So we have a mic flag upside down. Look at that, look.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
There you go. That'll come up in the production meeting later, Richard.
Yeah.
We'll talk about last week in a little while, but we've got a very, very, very special guest today. Would you give a big capacity crowd welcome to our special guest? It's the CEO of Ipswich Town. It's Mark Ashton, everybody. Well, thank you. Welcome to the world's biggest sofa.
It's smart, isn't it? I like this.
Well, this was two smelly old dressing rooms a few months ago, and it's a little bit different now with all the memorabilia and everything around here. I saw you looking at some of the stuff earlier on. It's amazing the history of the club when you look back, isn't it?
It's incredible. I think I've said before, we've been here about 2.5 years, and you open drawers and cupboards at Portman Road and medals and trophies fall out that you didn't realise we had. It's just got an incredible history and tradition.
And I know when you and the Americans first arrived, you were, that was one of the reasons that you came, the heritage of the club, the potential that you saw of the club to reach those heady heights again.
Absolutely. It's if you look at the breakdown of the clubs in Europe, let alone England, this club sits right at the top with its history and tradition, and part of that history and tradition is sat here with us tonight. So it's a fantastic club, fantastic people. We just need to create some more magical history moving forward.
Well, I'll tell you what you did last season, didn't they, everybody? Wasn't that fantastic? Just, amazing. And actually, one of us on this sofa predicted it, but it's continued already. Top two. Did I not say that at the start of the season? Top two. I mean, it's just, can you believe? Can you pinch yourself? How it's gone this season so far. I know there's a long way to go, but we're really revelling in it at the moment.
You don't have time, if I'm honest with you. These two guys played in hugely successful teams, and the games just roll round so fast, so quickly. It's so intense. You almost don't get time to enjoy it and celebrate. We had a great end to the season, an amazing run, which culminated in promotion, and there was literally no days off. It was straight at it, because if we didn't do our work in that period, we knew we'd struggle this season. So myself, Kieran, the backroom staff, the team behind the team had a very, very busy summer, and I think we've shown we were well prepared.
Well, it's just an amazing start, isn't it? And we're loving every single minute of it. We're going to talk about the Coventry game in a moment or two in detail. But we've just got to spend a few moments revelling in Wes Burns' goal. Haven't we? Wasn't that fantastic? Just amazing. You have a good view of that from the director's box. Could you see the curve?
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. I had a little bit of fun with Kieran. about it because we were talking about it, and the social media team had put the clips of the goal out, etc. Vaz starts and passes the ball out, and we're off. And then Kieran was like, "No, there were 4 passes before Vaz played it out. Let's count them all." But I think it typifies how Kieran and the staff have set the team up. I think it shows the importance of the investment in the pitch, because you couldn't do that on the pitch that was. But it shows the belief, the knowledge, and I think if you look at someone like Connor Chaplin, he's so wired into how Kieran wants to play. At times, he could almost play blindfolded. He knew instinctively when he got to make that switch.
Yeah, he likes that early ball through, doesn't he? Our problem from where we sat on the Wes Burns goal was, as it was about to enter the net, the front row of the director's box all stood up and we couldn't see it.
Do we know anybody who sits in the front row of the director's box?
Just down to the right. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
I think we'll forgive you
goal.
that.
Yeah, I am known for being a little bit lively. It was funny. I did slightly celebrate when they missed a penalty, and someone actually said to me, "Mark, that's like celebrating a double fault at Wimbledon. You just don't do it." Well, I was giving it something.
No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I would do exactly the same if I was there. What did you make of it, Butch?
Yeah, as soon as he hit it, it was just going outside the post, and then you could see the curve just coming back in. It was a great goal. I was flicking through the TV today, and I saw a goal from Oscar. I think it was many years ago, and he's coming from the right hand side, hit the ball first time with the outside of his foot, and it's gone in. That's a real skill, a real top class skill for someone to do that and have control of the ball like that. You look at snooker and tennis; they master that ball. And, these players have mastered it. And I have to look at the side. And the side, yes, I'm a little bit critical of the side because I want the best. I want them to succeed. But you have to admire them because of the 2 first halves we've had in Millwall and then Coventry, they've just blown teams apart. And I think they deserve a lot more goals. And at the end of the day, you can be critical about that, but it's just wonderful to see. They seem at least half a league or one more league above the other team. The zip on the ball, the touch on the ball, as you say with the pitch, playing on that surface must be great. In our day, you couldn't bend the ball like Wes Burns did because that would go miles over the stand. But
scoring good goals off good football, good build-up,
can't ask for more.
The finishing.
And Phil, after the match, Wes has asked about it, and he says, "I practice that all the time in training, and it never comes off."
Yeah. Well, Connor Chaplin was saying the same thing today. That the number of times he's tried that in training, and it's such a hard skill, isn't it? Hitting the ball with the. I remember, did Gatesy score a goal? Not curling quite as much as that at Man United. Do you remember when he sort of came from behind?
He got loads up there.
But yeah, he got it was sort of not dissimilar in the way that he struck the ball, I think. But yeah,
when Wes's goal went in, there were 3 other players in the 18-yard box who got their hands on their head.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh my God, what's he done? Top corner, magnificent.
Yeah. It was superb. And as you say, I think we both. The Millwall and the Coventry games, we'd pretty much got one at half time, haven't we, really? And
we'll talk about the game in detail in a moment. I just want to stick with Wes for a moment or two. He was one of those players that perhaps had a reputation for being only good in League One, but my goodness me, he's proving, isn't he? He's far better than a lot of people actually thought, going up the leagues with the side like this.
I've known Wes for many years. I had him at Bristol City through the academy, gave him his first pro contract there. And he just, the only reason he left Bristol was he was lacking game time. And he knocked the door and said, "Look, I need to build a career. I need to go and play, Mark." So when we came back here, he was our first signing. And I think, oh my God, what did we pay for him? We paid about 60 grand for him. Pound for pound, I would argue he's as good a signing as anyone. He learned a tough lesson with me when he signed his second contract because, again, I can have a little bit of fun with Wes because I've known him for so long and I've known his agent for a while. And so I put a hair length clause in his contract. And we put a formal clause. Stuart Hayton wrote the clause that he had to come in every Monday and have his hair length measured, and for every centimetre it was too long, he was fine. Anyway, so Wes signs the contract. Typical young player, don't read the contracts. So he left the building and I called him and I says, "Life lesson today, Wesley." "Well, what's that, Mark?" I said, "Read your contract." He phoned up, "You're joking." And his agent was in on it as well, so he had to come back in and re-sign the real contract. But no, I think pound for pound, he's been fantastic for this football club, both on and off the pitch. Passionate about the club, passionate about the town, passionate about the community. And I think it typifies what Kieran's done with these group of players. He's developed them, he's worked with them, they're growing, and I genuinely believe there's more to come.
Yeah, I think he's playing some of his best football. Would you agree with that, Butch?
Yeah, definitely. But would you not think for all the players that you've got in, they've all been value for money, there's no one that you could actually say has been poor, hasn't justified you spending that money. They've all been sensational and they've all improved, and that's the job of any football club, is to improve the players. But how much have they improved is just phenomenal.
I think it's a fair point. And when you break it down, we haven't spent a ton of money. We haven't. We've spent sensible money on young, hungry talent that has the raw ingredients for Kieran and his staff to develop. And I think that lack of erratic behaviour, that calmness that we have, that ability just to keep going and develop, keep working, stands us apart. And if you look at the Championship last year, clubs changing the manager 2-3 times in a month. You've just seen the manager merry-go-round start.
Yeah, but going back to Wes Burns, that's all that he needed as a young kid coming through was game time and being given the opportunity and somebody to put their arm around him and say, listen, you're a good player, and you're going to play week in, week out. I saw a lot of him come through the academy at Bristol. But he was centre forward for one game, then he was left out, then he was wide right, then he was wing back, then he was out again. Never really got a run in the side. And when he came here, it just seemed like I've got somebody that believes in me, somebody that's going to give me a chance in my best position. And he's just got better and better and better.
Amazing. Your social media boys were happy on Saturday because obviously I sit with some of them in the PA announcers box, and they were looking at the stats for Wes's goal.
Yeah,
up through the roof, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Worldwide views.
It was incredible. I spoke to the EFL's commercial director today. They were talking about it. It's sensational. It just went viral and exploded. All the major media channels picked it up. It's great because it puts the club on the map as well. It gets people talking about Ipswich, and that's only a good thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Mark Ashton's our guest on the show this week. Let's take a look at the season so far, sponsored by the Dove in Ipswich. Obviously, we touched on the Coventry match, but Phil, the first half, the match was won, wasn't it?
Yeah. Again, just like the Millwall game, I think, first couple of minutes, the first minute, I think there was the Coventry sort of almost created themselves a chance, but after that, it was almost all us, wasn't it? And 2 goals. Wes's goal absolutely at the right time because it was just getting towards half time, and I think they had a bit of the ball just before that. And you saw everyone went in at half time thinking, well, here we go. I think with Town now, you are feeling that once we get a couple of goals in front, there's very little chance anyone coming back into it. And that confidence and that record at home, is it something like 17 wins in 18 now at home, which, extra. We talk about new records almost every week at the moment, don't we? Again, terrific. And away managers, it's quite interesting listening to the away managers after the game. Mark Robbins, and the Millwall manager, both kind of just, both accepting, beaten by a better team. They're better than us. Mark Robbins said they were a bit like us last year, which I thought was kind of an interesting comment. It's on we plough.
Yeah, and obviously the second half, boys, the game was won, wasn't it, really? And they were just seeing out the performance. Yeah,
nobody's going to just lie back in the second half and let you steamroll them. They'll try and, win that 45 minutes. So, they lost the first 45 minutes. Gave us a scare with a penalty. So we got a little break of fortune there. But we never looked in any danger of losing the game at all. And even the goal we conceded late on, I thought that could very easily have been given a free kick in our favour.
Yeah, I think it was a foul on
I
Williams,
think Mark
it?
Robbins almost said that. He said that he headed Brandon Williams into the ball, I think.
Yeah, it was a joke. Worst decision of the day, I think.
Well,
2-0 was still a funny lead, though. I mean, like half time. We all know that the first team that scores, if it's Coventry, then we could be put under a bit of pressure because you've built up a good 2-0 lead. You should have scored more goals. You haven't. Is it going to come back and bite us? But I thought they held on well, and I think that's something that's been encouraging for the team, is that they're now getting more ruthless when it comes to, going ahead, staying ahead, and even like going behind. When they go behind now, I'm not worried at all. Even when 2-0 behind, I'm not worried at all, because you sort of think they have the ammunition there and the will there and the belief that they can go and win the game, not just draw it. So it's wonderful to see. It really is.
Well, let's have the unique perspective of the CEO on the match. I mean, the game was won at half time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it probably was when you look back. But a little bit like Butch says there, my anxiety, he's still there at 2-0.
Anxiety? I thought you looked calm as a cucumber, cool as a cucumber.
No, definitely not. Match days are not good days.
Have you ever
for
had
me.
a heart monitor on during the course of the match?
We've tried all that. We've tried all that. We've broke one or two of those. No, but you're right. 2-0 is always a funny scoreline, because someone makes a mistake, there's a slip, someone scores a worldie, and then you're right back in it. In fairness to them, I thought their fans were fantastic. They kept going for the whole game. But I think there's two things. There's a professionalism about McKenna's teams, and there's a real resilience. This team does not lie down and die. No. And there's a togetherness, a spirit that's taken us a long way, and we've just got to keep going and see how far it can actually take us.
When you were talking about Wes just now, and when you're recruiting players, character is obviously very important. Yeah. The other thing, sort of the way that Conor Chaplin was talking today in the press conference about tactically, and whatever, they're quite intelligent guys, aren't they? Is that something that you're deliberately kind of targeting when you try and sign players?
I think you have to. I think the character is a huge part of it. You guys will have played in dressing rooms. One bad egg will cause carnage, and we haven't got that. We genuinely haven't. And
do you do research on that? Do you speak to people?
Yeah, we do a lot of research. We do a lot of media research. We look at a lot of social media, who they follow, who follows them, who their friends are, what their movements are, what type of lifestyle they live. And then we talk to people who've played with them, people who've coached them, clubs they've been at, teams they've been in. That grows more and more. So you almost have a dossier on each.
Is that as much as the tactics and the stats as well about when they play? Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's a growing part, because with social media now you can do much more due diligence, and so the character assessment of the player coming in is absolutely key. Okay. Kieran obviously leads on the tactical side, and there's report after report after report. Again, there's more and more data that can be viewed now. But with data, for me, it's always a balance. It's a balance between the objective and the subjective. Data's only part of it. Yeah. We'd never sign a player just on data. The data will lead you to a player, or a lot of the time the data will actually tell you who not to sign rather than who to sign. But it's only a very small part of it, the data. A lot of it is still on the eye.
The data in our day would have been how many times you go down the pub and how many pints you had. And that's about the only data that they'd have on you.
Well, it worked for us anyway. It was brilliant, yeah.
Slightly different world now, I think. You're well settled now in Suffolk. What do you think about where you're living and where you've ended up?
Love it. I think I've said before, it's a part of the world that I would only ever have come to if I was coming to a game here. I just wouldn't have come here. And it's a part of the world that's absolutely beautiful. I'm blessed that the people of this town and this county, I feel like, have really taken me in and looked after me. I'm really grateful to that. So I bought it locally because I think you need to embed yourself in the community and you need to be part of it. When we lose, I need to feel that on a Sunday morning when I'm walking into the supermarket, and people will tell me when we win, you need to feel it. You've got to be right in the middle of it. And I'm really enjoying it here. I sat down, had a meeting with Mike O'Leary, the chairman, this week, and he just said, "You're obsessed." He says, "You're obsessed with it." Well, I am. And so is Kieran. But it's a healthy obsession because we care.
Do you go any pubs? Have you got any pubs in particular, favourites, restaurants, or anything like that?
No, listen, my sat nav says training ground, stadium, maybe the gym, training ground, stadium. There's just, Kieran's the same. There's never a minute. There's never a minute. And I think the minute you take your foot off the gas in this industry, the minute you think you've got it, you're in trouble, and clubs will move past you. Yeah. And we've talked about it before. We've got 2 decades at least to catch up, and we're still catching up in a lot of areas. So we've got to work harder. We've got to work faster. We're going to make mistakes, but we've got to learn from those mistakes quickly, and we've got to move on. Because if we don't, we won't get there.
The Suffolk thing I mention because obviously, I'm stadium announcer on a match day. I'm looking forward to the Norwich game. I've already had my instructions to keep it straight.
A bit
So
slow there,
tempting,
wasn't it?
but I tell you what, I'm playing it straight because I value my role.
I haven't told you that, by the way.
Oh, okay, that's all right then.
I'm
okay, we'll see what
I'm probably in your camp. I'm the one who's being told to behave.
we'll see, see what we can do. Have you all noticed the deflated canary is getting more and more deflated every week? The dead canary. I do get to hear things about what's going on at the club. Clearly, I'm inside it from time to time, and I asked you about Suffolk in particular because someone told me the other day that you're actually setting up a charity to help youngsters in Suffolk. Is this true? Or is
You've been talking to someone at the
I
club.
have been talking to someone, yeah. I have.
That's interesting because no one knows that. We haven't actually. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Once a journalist, always a journalist, Mark.
It's a secret society
Yeah.
charity.
Can you tell us?
Okay, yeah.
Can I-
You've thrown me a little bit there. All right. I've been in this game a long time. About a year ago, my father passed away. He'd had dementia for a long time, and this is the only club he's been with me all the way through from when I was 9. All the games, all the clubs have been always supported me. Was always telling me I was doing it wrong and how I should do it. And one of the things I've learnt over the time in Ipswich, particularly with the economic crisis, the cost of living crisis, there are a lot of children in Ipswich who are underprivileged, and some children who can't even afford toothpaste and the basic necessities of life. And I just think I'm very privileged to do the job I do. I'm privileged to move in the circles I do with well-paid football players and owners and sponsors, etc. So actually on my birthday, which was mid-October, I launched a foundation. I launched something called the Lentonbrook Foundation. Sorry, I'm going to struggle. Lentonbrook was my dad's business. And there's a substantial amount of money already been raised. As though some of them know it, I spoke to Connor and spoke to Wes. The players are going to donate to it, and the money is simply going to go to underprivileged children who need it in Ipswich. Talking to Umbro, the kit manufacturers. And if they want a new deal, they're going to have to give me some free kits because I want the kids to have the kits. And it's just something I feel really passionately about. I'm privileged. And I think I'm in a position where I can raise funds that can go to our own foundation to be distributed. I'm also working with the Suffolk Community Foundation because they know the pockets and the areas that we need to support. And God, Will, I'm going to be brave and show you this now. I needed to remember this every single day. So you can see it.
Oh wow!
That's the logo for the foundation. That reminds me every single day that I feel privileged and have a responsibility to help the community in which I live. So we're at it with Dan Prolfrey's helping me, Marcus Nash, the team are helping me. I wasn't planning on talking about that tonight. You've thrown me a little bit. But yeah, I want to do my bit, and I need to do more.
Well done. That's fantastic, isn't it? Isn't that brilliant? That's brilliant.
I think you should talk about it as well because it's a great cause, and it's for Suffolk children, which is very close to our hearts as well. So yeah, it's well done on that. So that's very good. When you actually, are there scales on your arm? Is it scales?
Scales. So Dad's business made old-fashioned traditional scales. So I've used that as the
Oh
logo.
right, okay.
And I've also I'm opening up a little bit here. So I've also had a conversation with the family, and I've got an agreement with the family. So when we get promoted, the horse is going on that wrist.
Oh, brilliant.
That's true, and you can hold me to that.
Oh, we will. Don't worry.
I think for me, the only scales I've ever seen is at the Old Bailey. I haven't been to the Old Bailey right enough, and I don't want to go either.
No. Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, that's something that's your dad would be incredibly proud of you doing that. He really would.
I'll tell you a quick story. So, when Dad passed, obviously he was cremated, and I've got it's like a little silver tube with some of his ashes that I keep with me, and I've got him with me on a match day, and like we're away at Birmingham, and we've gone 2-0 down. I've got him in my hand, and I'm going, really, Dad? Really? This is how you help me? And then at 2-2, I'm going, all right, we'll have a whiskey tonight. Thanks for that. No, I feel he's with me. I'm blessed to be at this amazing football club. And just to finish what you said about how do I feel about Suffolk, I feel very, very fortunate that this community treats me the way it does, and I'm just grateful that people have been so kind.
Well, we've had a lot of lovely messages in from people. If people want to find out more about the charity, is that going to be launched on the club website or something like that?
We're going to do that. We're going to do some PR over the next probably 2 or 3 weeks. The PR team are probably now going to tell me off because I've jumped the gun, but you really have. Where's Phil? He's got an exclusive. You like that?
Fine. Well,
Thank you very much for that.
he'll be writing that up tonight. That'll be everywhere.
It's not like Phil to get an exclusive anyway.
You'll keep it to yourself, Phil, won't you?
Obviously, yeah.
Good man.
No, I think it's fantastic what you're doing. I really do.
Thank you.
You mentioned family and dad there. You've had a playing career as well. So you were what age did you start playing football in teams? What position did you play? Was Dad ferrying you around or what?
Yeah, Dad ferried me around a hell of a lot. I signed my first contract with West Bromwich Albion when I was 13. Left school at 16. Was under Ron Atkinson. Which was an interesting time.
Big Ron.
Then Ron left and Brian Talbot took over, and Cyril Lee joined the club. So Cyril coached me, and then made my debut for him when I was 17, which was an interesting game.
Yeah, tell us about that.
It sounds crazy. I made my debut for West Brom when I was 17 against a little team called Real Madrid. Brian was manager, but played in the game. My centre half was Sam Allardyce. Big Sam. Don Goodman, who's now Sky Sports, was in the team. We got beat 5-1. They had who did they have? Bebeto, the old Brazilian winger. Hugo Sanchez played. Real players.
Big Sam would have had him in the back pocket.
Oh, my God. Yeah. He kicked him a few times, that's for sure. Tried to kick him a few times. But it was. I was never going to be good enough as a player. I knew that. And so by the time I was 20, I'd finished playing. I'd a conscious decision. I knew I wasn't going to be good enough. I had a few knee operations, but bizarrely, by the time I was 21, I was back at West Brom as head of community, youth team coach, and first team goalkeeper coach. And I look back at 21, that was just ridiculous. But after 2 years of doing that under the likes of Keith Birkinshaw, who was manager, Cyril Lee was still at the club at that point, I just didn't get the buzz from coaching. It just wasn't my thing. So I made a conscious decision. I wanted to go into the business side, and then developed a career from there.
Well, it's been quite a career as you look through. I know you're passionate about the community side of things now with the foundation. So those early sort of forays into that at West Brom kind of set the seed for all of this? Yeah.
Again, I was born and raised in the Midlands, and it was an area of low deprivation. So I understood that community, was fortunate to lead the community trust at that time, and build activities that engaged with and supported its local community. Again, very privileged. And when I moved for 10 years at West Brom, I did a variety of jobs, whether it was in commercial, whether it was in marketing, whether it was in ticketing, whether it was in retail, whether it was building stands, whether it was building training grounds, and I learnt my trade in that 10 years. But I always insisted that I kept community with me. I wouldn't give that up. And it's a passion that stayed with me through all my clubs. And I'm really proud here that we've relaunched the trust, moved it into a foundation. Dan Palfrey has been given the opportunity to step up within the club. Last week he was at the National EFL conference, and what makes me so proud is they're now asking us to talk on how we run it at Ipswich, how integrated it is, how it's at the forefront of everything we do. And whilst I'm at this football club, that just won't change.
How many people do you work with now? Because it's thousands, isn't it?
Yeah, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands. And, we use this magnificent brand, which is Ipswich Town Football Club. We use the heritage, we use the former players to motivate and engage its local community. And whether we're dealing with social inclusion, whether we're dealing with health, whether we're dealing with education, whether we're dealing with a dementia cafe, we use the brand to really engage and motivate, because Ipswich Town is a common language that people in this county speak.
It was a few years ago. I remember hosting the breakfast show on Radio Suffolk, and I was talking to a mum about a soccer school, and the soccer school in Britannia Road in Ipswich was Norwich City.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, wake up! Come on! And I could not believe that Norwich were coming round. We're running soccer schools in Ipswich. We're shoving them back up into Norfolk now, aren't we? You've got back into places where we just abandoned.
In fact, before I joined the football club, I remember it broke in the press that I was coming here, which was interesting because I was still employed by another football club at that point. And then the phone rang on a Sunday morning, and it was David Sheepshanks. I need to see you. And David cares passionately about this football club, and he's been a great friend to the club, and he's a great friend to me. And one of the first things he said was, he was devastated that Norwich were on our patch, and we've pushed them back, and we've pushed them back hard, and it's actually the opposite now. We're going onto their doorstep, and we will continue to go on their doorstep. I make no apologies for it.
I think it's fantastic. The natural order is being restored in East Anglia,
Absolutely.
which is what we all love and
if he doesn't, apparently we can send Butch and he can kick some doors in. I've been told.
I've been there, done that many times. Yeah, I'll do it again as well.
Let's just talk about that now. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, but let's bring up the derby because it is the next home game, isn't it, against Norwich City. I did manage to squeeze in a little Norwich when I said goodbye to everybody at the last home game. I hope you didn't spot that, boss. Much to people's amusement. But you're aware of derbies, throughout your entire career on and off the field. You'll have been at clubs where there are derbies. Are you aware of how much this means to us?
I am now. No, I'm intrigued. 16 years at West Brom Wolves, West Brom Villa. Watford, Luton, Bristol City, Swansea, some tasty fixtures. I have a feeling this is going to be the tastiest of all. It feels like there's some scores to settle. I can see the passion and the hurt in our fans' eyes sometimes when they talk about this. From a football perspective, at the end of the day, it's 3 points. We'll approach the game professionally, but we understand what this means to this fan base. Again, we've built relationships with the fan base, with the likes of Blue Action. Blue Action are organising a meet for the coach, similar they did to the Exeter game. Get behind them, because I've said, look, if we're going to do it properly. We want the same numbers as Exeter, because that was
incredible. Incredible. This was the coach coming in and all the fans there with flares, and it was just incredible, and that will show just how passionate they are on that Saturday lunchtime, won't it?
I just want us to, as a club, as a fan base, as a town, as a county, to showcase us in the best version we can be of us. And if we do that, we'll have a great day and everything will come together. We just need to be the best version of us we can be. And I think since I've got here, the pride, the passion of this town, as it shocks me. The size, the opportunity of this football club, I've said before, you can't put a lid on it. This fan base is off the scale. I'm looking at the replica shirts you've got up here. I've said this before. When we joined the football club, even when this club was in the Premier League historically, it'd sell around 10,000 shirts a year. We'll do 53,000 this year across the three. We're up on the 3 shirts from last year again, and it was 50,000 last year. Those are top Premier League numbers. Let's be really clear. Right now, stadium's not big enough.
Well, I know Phil wants to talk about
this,
potential improvements, because you talked about it this week, haven't you? About stands. I mean, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah.
Phil?
You spoke about it at the AGM, didn't you? On the PLC AGM on Monday. That the Cobble stand will go and be replaced with a bigger structure that but something that will be used day in, day out.
Yeah.
For what sort of things would it be used for? And the other thing I would say about it is, the big concern, I think, when it comes to building new stands is you lose a stand for a season. And obviously, when the 2 stands were built 20 years ago, Town lost those stands. And I think David Sheepshanks and one or two other people have said that was a factor in why Town got relegated from the Premier League. So timing it, I think you talked about the timing of it on Monday. How do you get that right? And would you do? Liverpool have just done. I think they've kind of built.
That's three
behind
questions.
it.
There's questions there.
Well,
Come on
they're
now.
all interlinked, aren't they?
Leave a gap in between.
They're all
so
interlinked.
We can get an answer there.
They're all interlinked. I get this every week. Don't worry.
Oh, I like this. Can you two come in my office a bit more often to give me? This is
No
great.
problem.
This is, yeah. So look, I think there's a couple of points to that I met with the CEO of the council again yesterday. They've been fantastically supportive. We're working with them on a master planning exercise for the land around the stadium, because we are going to need some more land to expand back. We're looking at the land behind the stand that we've now acquired and how we best use that. Their plans for the town centre, their plans for the access and egress, it all has to work, because you don't want to build a white elephant. And what you can't do is build a modern stand that simply operates 25, 26 times a season. It just doesn't financially work. So in essence, the replacement of the cobbled, if you think about it, would turn us round, because at the moment, in essence, we've got our back to the town. So we're looking at facilities in that would operate, whether that's conference banqueting, whether that's exhibition. We're an hour from London. We're a couple of 100 yards from a train station. We're a town centre football club. There are a number of things that we could put into that stand that would drive revenue on a non-match day basis, which is vitally important to us because it ups our revenue, improves our financial fair play position, means more we can spend on players. So it all has to work. But your point on timing is key. Again, back at West Brom, we took the old Rainbow stand down, which is a replica, bizarrely, of the cobbled stand, and built the East stand. The stand was down for 18 months. If you look at Fulham, they've taken their main stand down. It's really difficult. But we've got architects in place who are absolute professionals. And one of the things that we are looking at is whether it's cost effective to build a scheme, as you've just said, where actually you part build behind and then take down the front. We're not that far, but we are looking at it. There's never a perfect time, but we want to get the plans in place. We want to get the planning permissions in place and be in a position to go when we see fit. So we're down the road on that.
The clamour for tickets at the moment is huge, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just Stuart Hayton, the club secretary, said to me on Saturday, you guys sit in the director's box. He said, when you joined, Mark, you said we have to make this the hottest ticket in town. And my God, he said, you have made it the hottest ticket in town, because if you even look at the director's box, there's no seats now. When we joined, it was 2 men and a dog. And it was,
You don't need a seat really, because you're up and down all the time, aren't you? Standing
I
up.
apologise. I am lively. But it gets you. You care. In what other business in the world is the CEO has no impact, no control over the most important part of his business? I can't do anything at 3 o'clock on a Saturday other than sit and watch. And
Great fun, isn't it?
it's almost painful. People say to me at the end, "We've won. Oh, did you enjoy that?" I said, "No, I'm just relieved. I just want to sleep. I'm shattered." But no, again, it's a fantastic football club, and we can't put a lid on what we can achieve, because if you look at clubs like Brighton, who are now sustainable Premier League football clubs, are doing really well, verge of Europe, into Europe. You can't tell me that this football club can't do things like that. I just won't accept it.
Would you say, well, we're going to base ourselves on what they do, or are you going to use other clubs as well to have a, togetherness? So that this is the blueprint, but it involves several other clubs. But Brighton's a great example.
Yeah, and we have a really good relationship with Brighton, as we do with a number of other football clubs. We share. There's a handful of us who share knowledge and information. Because that's just what we do, and I think there's a modern way to build football clubs now. The clubs that I've had most success at have been when we haven't had money, and the reason we've been successful, when you haven't got money, you've only got one way. You have a DNA that's you've got to fish in a market on players when you haven't got money, and it's a small market, and then you've got to build around that. The challenge when you have money is you've got to spend it well. And this is where Kieran is so good. He's so particular about. He won't just waste money. He'll only bring in players who are technically right, who are the right type of character to add to the squad. But you see so many clubs who have this hire and fire mentality with the manager. They go young coach, old coach, young coach, old coach, and they're just flicking between. And when you have a young manager like McKenna, which has been my mantra all my career, is you have to create the environment for them to be successful. We've created the environment, and we want Kieran to be the best version of himself.
You talk about the environment. Obviously, the training ground is the big project, isn't it? That your next.
It's another
project.
question, Phil.
Well, there's another 3 to add to it. Don't worry, I've got another 3. I mean, that's something you're working on at the moment. What are you going to? There's buildings going in because there's a lot of porter cabins at the moment, aren't there? Are there permanent buildings? And there was some land, wasn't there? You were buying off that was Marcus Evans's land.
Yep.
Is that all?
That's all completed. So, yeah, we've got the land on both sides of the road. And we've invested probably just over £1 million in the 3 pitches. So the pitches are now stitched, and they're just first class. But we need Premier League player development facilities, and that will include offices, gymnasiums, swimming pool, training facilities, everything that the modern footballer needs. And the architects are employed. We've had the first, second, third drafts of the schemes. We've met the local authority to start the planning process. That will come ahead of the Cobble designs for sure, because that's the first major capital project. But yeah, we're getting down the road on that.
What was it like in your days then, boys? The training facilities compared to what Mark's just outlined?
I think you're talking about
very similar, I think. Yeah.
something a bit bigger than the fan zone, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had a little corner of the pitch, of the training pitch, to work on. You know, and it was awful. But you're not going to design a tunnel to underneath a road, are you, at the training ground, or a bridge or anything else like that?
No.
A magic carpet or something like that would be good. No?
Well, you had the gymnasium, didn't you? That's where all the action took place, wasn't it?
Oh, well,
Still
Monday
there.
mornings after the weekend it was, yeah.
Yeah,
You always had a
gymnasium.
five-a-side in there.
On Monday morning, it smelt a bit on a Monday morning, I'll tell you, because the boys had all the bin bags on. You remember the bin? You used to put the bin bags on when you had a right good skin for the weekend, and you used to sweat out all the alcohol. God, that used to keep you high. It was pretty good, that was.
Fantastic facility, though. But originally, it had got an asphalt flooring. So if you fell during the game in there, you know, you got ripped to pieces. Then they astroturfed it, and we had some great sessions in there.
Yeah, it was,
you know,
but it was revolutionary, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Astro, yeah.
You know, and there's a viewing gallery, so it's great. So halfway through the game, if you saw somebody, one of the young lads like watching you, somebody could just pick him out and shine it him
with the ball.
Yeah. Usually Sir Bobby.
we even had Richard, our producer. He was a ball boy, Richard. And he used to be in the boot room, which is all changed now. But the boot room is as you came in the tunnel on the right hand side, where all the boots were kept, obviously, and the bins were there where you used to brush the boots. The apprentices used to brush the boots. So the ball boys were in there, and I think me and Mariner used to go in and just smash bubbles at them. And Richard ended up in one of the bins sometimes. So yeah, I don't. Upside down. It doesn't quite happen now, I don't think.
No,
I think you've permanently
now,
scarred him, I think, Terry.
Yeah,
Good. I hope so, yeah.
But it shows the ambition. I mean, it shows the ambition. And the US owners, you know, that they're I see them at the game regularly. You know, they must be loving it.
Yeah, they're good. I keep talking about this as our superpower is our calmness. Our superpower is the ability to stick to the plan unhindered. So when we came into the club, we talked about how we would run this, how I would write a plan, they'd challenge the plan, but once the plan was agreed, they would leave us to run the plan. And they've been first class to it, all of them have. That gives me the oxygen to run the business, which means I can give Kieran the oxygen to run the football team. He isn't looking over his shoulder thinking people are going to medal, he's going to be under pressure to do this, sign a player someone he doesn't want to play. It's none of that. It's a professional organisation. This may sound silly. I'm the chief executive, I'm a director. I don't go to the training ground without asking Kieran. Why? That's his office. He wouldn't barge into my office without knocking the door. So I'll always say, Kieran, want to come down today? Is that all right? Mark, why are you asking? No, is it okay? He runs that training ground. He's got a team of professionals in Andy Rolls and his coaches, etc., who are absolutely key. But this is a professional organisation. with respect, this is not a Netflix documentary. That's not us. We are professional people trying to build a football club that has to be built in a certain way. Because why? Because it has the history and tradition that these guys have built. We have to respect that, and it has to be built in a certain way. And Terry will know, if I don't do that, I've got Pat Gobbard in on Monday morning telling me I'm doing it all wrong.
But it's a respect thing, isn't it? You respect Kieran, Kieran respects you, you respect each other, and the jobs you've got to do. Massive respect.
It's great you mentioned Pat. She was one of our favourites on this show, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
What a great episode.
Been
Phil,
our
what
best
else have you
guest.
got?
Told me off. Yeah,
She did tell you off,
told
yeah.
me off. Yeah,
Yes, young man.
we talked a lot about tradition and history. A museum is an obvious step along that when we're talking about that so often. Is that something that might be part of the plans?
It has to be, but it's where. So I don't. So for example, the boardroom is filled with amazing memorabilia. It's the wrong place. Why? Because in the boardroom, not enough people see it. So we're actually looking at, does it go around the football club? We're looking at developments with the council around the stadium, other buildings that may go up, where actually it's on display to a more wider part of the community. And I think that's what we need. The children in the schools need to be able to come in and see it and understand it. It's too locked away at the moment. So yeah, 100% it's something we have to do, but we want to get it in a place where more people can see it.
Amazing
that
stuff.
Job for you guys. No, all right.
I think Pat. Well,
What did you say then?
Nothing. Don't worry. You didn't hear that, Mark.
I think he was suggesting that perhaps you were sitting on a little chair in the corner watching and make sure people don't touch stuff as they walk around, like you see in museums.
Okay, I'll see you in the car park later on. Phil, no problem. I do know where you live, actually.
You
yeah.
do know. You live quite close to me as well.
I don't think you'll make it as far as the car park, Phil, to be honest.
Oh dear! But one thing, I do want to mention it because so many people have been in touch with me. Just wanted to personally thank you for the personal touches that you've done when people have lost a loved one or there's a celebration. You've taken the time, you personally, to contact them, to email them, to write a letter, to make their day special. And I've seen that firsthand as well. And so many people have been in touch with me just wanting to give a personal thanks to you for doing that, because not every CEO does that, let me tell you. So what you've done is fantastic, and it really is appreciated. And I think that deserves a round of applause, because it is absolutely brilliant. We've got a few other things to get through tonight. It is time for the Keep It Uppy Challenge, sponsored by Ginger Pickle. Now, the thing is, as we've learnt tonight, that Mark is an ex-professional footballer. That means he has no knees, doesn't it? Very poor knees.
Absolutely.
So, unfortunately, tonight, he can't do the Keep It Uppy Challenge.
So does he go to nil on the scoreboard and below me?
Below you, Butch.
Well, excellent stuff. Yes. You made
Mark,
my
you only
night.
had 4 to beat. You only had 4 to beat. Does anybody else fancy giving it a go from our capacity crowd? Oh, terrible. But thanks to Ginger Pickle for sponsoring that non-event this week on the show. But we'll get going on that in a few weeks, I'm sure. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe the channel. It makes all the difference to us. It really does. And it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. It just means you get a notification when the latest editions are coming out. And if you'd like T-shirts and mugs in time for Christmas, go to lifesapitch.tv for more details. You can buy those mugs and those T-shirts. And last week, we had a very special show, which was at Venue 16 in Ipswich. It was our big Christmas special with Steve McCall. Who watched that last week? You watched that? Yeah. We had a quiz, which unfortunately we didn't broadcast, but it was Butcher's Bandages versus Escape from Osman. And it went very well, actually. Actually, we raised a lot of money on the night for the Ex-Players Association and Cancer Campaign in Suffolk. We raised about £3,000. So thank you for all of those who took part in it. Russ, you
Yes, sir.
won the trophy.
I did. Would you like to see?
Would we like to see the trophy?
No. No.
Terry? No?
But we will, I
We will.
imagine. Yeah, we will.
It looks a little like the European UEFA Cup, I think.
Cup. Yeah, I thought that. It's not quite as heavy.
Life's a Pitch TV, sponsored by DPS Tech Limited. A question for Sport Winners 2023. Would you like to hold that for a minute?
No. I know where that could fit.
He's looking at you, Phil, not me.
Yeah, probably.
If you go
The only
round your-
design fault is you can't fill it with champagne. It's full of holes, look.
That won't stop us, I tell you.
Anyway, round of applause for Escape
way
from
round.
Osman, the winning team last week, which was Ian Westlake, Russell Osman, and Luke Chambers. And, of course, Steve McCall, George Burley were Butcher's bandages.
Yes. They
But
came
you must,
second.
yeah, but you must tell us the story, because there was 3 balls that we knocked out. It was bonus balls, and you knocked them into the crowd from the stage, and if they caught one, you got a bonus. Well, Russell and his mates kicked 3 balls out, and they were caught every one. We kicked 3 balls out, and every bugger dropped them. Useless they were.
And that was what made the difference, wasn't it?
Yeah, obviously not goalkeepers. They weren't human beings either.
And you wonder whether they were taking it seriously or not. I think we know exactly that they were. It's time now for some town news in brief, sponsored by John Keeble Cars of Bramford, with Phil Ham from twtd.co.uk with the news hat going on.
I'm getting fed up with this hat.
No, we love it, don't we?
I think I might go for Eds. I might nick Eds off.
No.
And then sort of gradually,
It's all part of the show now, Phil.
Today, Phil.
It is, yes.
In your own time.
So team news, his press conference this afternoon, manager Kieran McKenna said the squad had suffered no new injuries ahead of Saturday's game at Middlesbrough, whose head coach is his close friend Michael Carrick. The Blues will, however, be without Massimo Luongo and Brandon Williams, who picked up their 5th bookings last week. Lee Evans remains the only long-term absentee, having undergone knee surgery in October, while Genoid Donasian is back in training and may travel to Teesside. Otherwise, the fullback is likely to be involved in next week's matches. FA Cup third round draw was on Sunday. Town have been drawn away against AFC Wimbledon. Date to be confirmed, I think, unless Mark knows something more than we do. A decent draw for the Blues, not too much of a trip, and an opportunity for fringe players in the squad to get a game. Town will hope to get through the tie and draw a big name in a subsequent round, because it's quite a while since we've had a big name in the cup, isn't it? I think we're kind of we're due a big name. And as alluded to earlier, Blue Action Independent Supporters Group have announced they will be organising a coach greeting ahead of the derby against Norwich.
Oh, they're worse than that. Come on.
On Saturday.
It's pantomime season, isn't it?
No,
yes,
it's
it
not.
is.
On Saturday, 16th of December, they previously staged a hugely successful welcome for the squad ahead of the final game of last season, the 6-0 hammering of Exeter City, which secured promotion. Fans being encouraged to congregate in time to meet the coach as it arrives at Sir Alf Ramsey Way and Constantine Road at around 11 a.m. And finally, programme news. A programme from a game in Town's first season in the Football League, 1938-39, changed hands for £1,000 at auction earlier this month. The programme for the Blues away game at Brighton and Hove Albion on October the 8th, 1938, was sold by Sporting Gold for £1,000 at their sale on December the 1st, well above the estimate of £110 to £120. It's believed only one Town programme has previously fetched more, a single sheet from the Blues home game with Crystal Palace from the same season, having sold for just over £1,100.
Wow.
And that endeth the news. The programmes that fetch the money in terms of collectors are those 1930s ones, the pre-war ones are the ones.
Some of the friendlies and
there's obscure
one-off games and
ones.
things, obscure ones.
Las Palmas Away, if you lads have got the Las Palmas Away one, that fetched a few quid a few years ago.
I'll have a look, Phil.
Yeah, go up in the loft.
I think quite a few of the local journalists had those, didn't they? And,
yeah, I remember Dave Allard did discover the value of that programme and remembered who was on the plane and rang around to see how many copies he could get and then sold them on, I believe. Which is
happily retired.
Very entrepreneurial of him, yeah.
Anyway, that's
the end
the
of the
news.
news.
Thank you very much, Phil. Mark, AFC Wimbledon away, FA Cup. All right? Reasonable draw, or would you have liked to have been at home?
From a pitch perspective, I probably want it away, actually, because, again, getting into that period where we've had the FA Youth Cup game on the pitch, we've got a run of home games coming up, you're into that spell where it's a challenge to keep it tip-top. So, no, I think, listen, that won't be an easy game, by the way, because they'll be right at it. But, we'll go, Kieran will be competitive again, and he'll be wanting to progress, that's for sure.
The pitch is looking fine, but it does take a while. It's still got to take a while to bed in, hasn't it? So it's not like a I know it's the latest high tech, but it's still going to take a while to bed in, isn't it? A season or two.
The technology that went behind this blew us away. It's incredible. They dug down and they laid almost like it's like a plastic eggshell across the pitch, and that holds hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water when the water irrigates through. Then they laid 27 miles of piping for the undersoil heating. Then all the construction of the pitch, etc. Then it's stitched. It's an incredible piece of technology. But yet, the first year is probably one of the worst years in the 10-year life of the pitch, or the minimum 10-year life. By year 2, 3, it'll get better and better. So we still have to invest in the lighting, all the additional bits and pieces to get it up to where it is. But if you've seen us before the game and at half-time, we're one of the few pitches from an irrigation perspective that can put the sprinklers on both halves, because there's not many clubs who've invested in that level of water tanks to get the pressure up. But you've seen the way we play. Kieran wants it wet, slick, smart, quick and fast. So right up until kick-off now, we're not dragging hose pipes on and off the pitch.
I feel sorry for those poor chaps who used to have to drag those hose pipes out every week. Don't they? I mean, it's great, and it's timed. You know, he has those hoses, those fountains coming on at a specific time before kick-off, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I keep saying that we should put colour in it and have it like the Trivia Fountain and charge people to watch. It's just incredible.
Like the Bellagio in Vegas.
You've got it. You've got it. But no, it's the undersoil heating's now on. It's been on for the last 2 or 3 games.
Do you know what? For the game midweek the other week against Millwall, I've got my suit on. I've got my Ipswich Town coat on. And I'm thinking it's freezing cold, but I'm going to be down pitch side, and I'm going to be fine because I'm going to be right next to the undersoil heating.
No, it doesn't quite work like
Doesn't
that.
quite reach me.
But no, look, that's a 2.7 million investment in the pitch. It needed it, and I think, the other thing I think with Portman Road is there's something magical when we play under the lights, and the pitch looks slick, and It's incredible. I have had a little bit of a worry in the last 2 games. I don't know whether you've noticed. It's got quite foggy in the last 2 games. And, when we were 3-0 up, I'm thinking, ooh.
I was just thinking, man, that you've only got one 3 o'clock kickoff this month.
Yeah.
And that's in Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Watford, 7:45.
Yeah.
Norwich, 12:30. Leeds,
Hang on, I think they missed that one.
Just keeping them on the
Not
toes.
very sharp, this crowd, are they?
No,
Come on.
Tiring.
Wake up.
Boxing Day, 7:45, and then QPR, 7:45.
Yeah, it's the way of the world. It's broadcast.
We're going to have to get used to that next season, aren't we, in the Premier League?
I think you get used to it in the Championship next season, wouldn't you, as well? Because the new media deal is games are all over the place, aren't
Yeah,
they?
it is. I was, if I'm honest, I was frustrated at the Boxing Day game.
Yeah, that was the big one, wasn't it?
We fought that. It was moved twice time-wise on us. But ultimately, we have no say in it. From a public transport perspective, for that kind of time on Boxing Day, I was disappointed. But ultimately, I have no control.
Do you remember when we played Christmas Day and Boxing Day?
Well, it was Boxing Day and then the 27th, wasn't it? We didn't play Christmas Day.
Then we played
Christmas Day was in the
26. Yeah, 2 games in 2 days.
I think they played Christmas Day in the 40s and 50s, Russell, but you weren't alive then, so it was Boxing Day and the 27th. Yeah.
Yeah, I think going back.
What was that like then? What was that like?
That was hard work.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of those games was against West Brom.
I think it
as
was
well at Portman Road.
Yeah.
I think I scored.
But we only had we only had 2 beers on Boxing Day night instead of the usual 22, just to save ourselves for the next game. But
it's incredible, really, because if you look back at that period of time, how many subs would you have had? One sub. You're playing on really heavy pitches.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. You probably needed a drink.
Yeah.
Well, what would have the boys of '81 been like on the surface that the boys have today? Because you played good football, didn't you?
Well, we're a bit old now, Mark, to be honest.
But you were talking about St Etienne last week, weren't you? The pitch there, which was appalling, wasn't it? And
it was appalling.
And
if you watch it back nowadays, absolutely appalling.
Shocking.
Yeah, Arno Muirns let the ball roll across him 20 yards out from goal and just sticks it straight in the top corner. And it's bouncing and bobbling and stuff like that. But we practice day in, day out on basics, passing, receiving the ball. And we did exercises and routines till the cows came home, really. Even though we were a team of international players, that was part training, and we could pass the ball really well. So if we were good in those days on those pitches, I think we'd be really good.
But that's what you
today.
see now with the team now, the slickness of the passing. They can hammer a ball into a colleague even 5 yards away, and the touch and the control are excellent.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that ability to do that is, and it's just, it's done instinct, it's done straight away. Then the boys don't even think about it. And because they have that ability to get the ball forward quicker and slicker, then they open teams up quicker. You see the teams like Coventry, it was nice and slick at times, but they gave the ball away because of good pressure as well from Town. But also, when Town got the ball, you know, they seemed quicker. They seemed as though we seemed as though we had 13 men on the pitch because it was just really slick, and that's
But we used
the
to
standard
enjoy
they set.
the slick surface, didn't we, to play
Yeah,
on?
we did, yeah.
But that just had to be a coincidence that it'd been raining,
Yeah.
and before it got too muddy, because then the mud would slow everything down. So early on in the season, if it had rained, or if they've got a bit of a hose pipe and put some water on, it was great for us because the ball really does zip
I
around
remember
a
when
lot
I
quicker.
was manager of Coventry, we had an undersoil heating at Coventry back in like the 90s, but it didn't work because the groundsman had verti-drained it and broken it up. So it was underneath the pitch but broken, but they couldn't afford to dig it up and put another one in. So we did have undersoil heating, but it just didn't work. It's never going to work.
Well, I think it's amazing what's happened to the ground. The transformation inside and outside is huge, isn't it? And that's a big part of what you've done as well, and more to come. I know every time I go past one of the offices, there's a tin of paint out there.
True.
You know, all the offices are being redone, aren't they? Everything's being redone, which is great to see. Let's have a look at what happened to ITFC on this day in the past. It's brought to you in association with Fred Olsen Logistics.
Well, on this day, the 7th of December, the first entry is 1975, Sunday the 7th of December, 1975. Initially signed from Tottenham Hotspur on loan, Jamie Clapham was born in Lincoln. Supporters Player of the Year in 1998-99. The marauding left footer, a bit like yourself, Terry, appeared in 252 games for Town before joining Birmingham City for £1 million. Also on Wednesday the 7th of December in 1977, despite a 3-0 first leg lead, Town lost to Barcelona in a penalty shootout at the Nou Camp to the Cruyff-inspired Catalans and crashed out of the UEFA Cup in the third round. And I played in that game.
You did.
Did you play in that game? You played in that game?
We lost a 3-0 lead, yeah.
I didn't.
You didn't. No. You were a centre half alongside Alan Hunter, weren't you?
I was. Yeah, we lost on penalties.
Did you take one?
Nope. Oh. The referee was left a lot to be desired.
I'm sure that's what you said at the time as well.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Cheat.
Well, I mean, it would be great to be playing Barcelona and people again, wouldn't it? I mean, that must be the dream of everybody at the club, to be back at those kind of heights again.
Yeah, as I say, you just can't put a lid on what this football club can do, and I just think we've got to take each step as it comes, keep moving forward, and this is the challenge. We have to move forward at pace. If you don't in this industry, that people will go past you, and I think we've picked up a pace from when we started. Tick, promoted, first objective done. Now we need to be competitive in this division. I said at the start of the season I expected us to attack the division. I think that's what we've done. But I think where you have to get the balance, and I'd ask supporters to bear with us on this. It isn't about signing 6, 7, 8 players. And I think people probably expected us to sign more players in the summer. It's not about that. It's about getting the best of what you've got, developing that, and then adding to that mix and adding to that mix. And that's what we'll do. But what you can't do is add to the mix at the detriment to what you've got. The spirit, the culture, the belief that we've got. And you've got to remember, particularly in January, it doesn't matter. I don't care who you bring into this club or what ability they've got. It's going to take them a period to learn and settle into Kieran's patterns.
Yeah.
If you look at Brody and people like that, when they came in last January, it took them a good 4 weeks or so to get used to what the way Kieran plays. And I think we have to be mindful of that. It takes players time to. We're not a direct team where you can just drop in, put it behind them, turn them around, get up the pitch. There's a specific way he wants to play, and I've not yet seen a player who's joined us who hasn't been shocked by the intensity of Kieran's training.
Talking of intensity, when we do go up, as you say, you might have to face VAR. Are you looking forward to that? Sorry to put a damper on it, but I mean,
Thanks, Butch. It's been a great show.
And when you get into Europe, you've got to remember that we've never lost a European game.
At home, yes.
All right, okay.
Yes, right.
Thanks for that.
No pressure.
Thanks for that.
You haven't got to worry about that one for a little bit.
Yeah.
Matt's been in touch. We're wrapping up the show now. Matt's been in touch. Just wanted to put forward my appreciation for everything that Mark Ashton and the team at ITFC have done for the club over the past couple of years. After years of success starvation, words can't do it justice to thank Mark and his team for everything great that is currently happening at our club again. And we all agree with that, don't we? It's happening to us, everybody. It's happening to us. Still a way to go, but thank you for all the hard work, and thank you to the Live to Pitch team for all the great interviews this year as well, says Matt. Nice to hear those kind of comments, Mark, the fans. It means a lot to you, doesn't it?
It does, but it's really important because I get invited to evenings like this, which has been great fun, and thank you so much for having me. But there's a team that's behind the team. I don't run the business. I manage the people who run the business. So whether that's Luke Warren, whether that's Gary Probert, whether that's Marcus Nash, whether that's Gavin Preston in ticketing, Paul Macro in resource, Stuart Cox, Andy Waldridge, Tom Ball. Then you go to the training ground. Kieran would say the same about his coaching staff, where it's Martin Pert, etc. There's a huge team behind the team, and times they don't get the credit that they deserve. So I'm so grateful that people say nice things, but I think they must remember there's a team that's behind me that I'm very fortunate to lead, who I promise you work tirelessly on a daily basis to rebuild. And it is your amazing football club. We'll get things right and we will get things wrong. But as I say to people, the one thing please understand is I don't wake up in the morning and think, how best can I mess this up? But they are relentless, and we will not fail on work ethic. And we're going to do our very best to rebuild this great football club. And again, I'm going to say it again, we're not going to put a ceiling on where we can go.
Brilliant, fantastic. Mark Ashton, everybody. One thing before we go, this week's Man v Fat football results. And there's a chance to boo here. This is from Man v Fat Mark. No action on Friday night at Portman Road due to a frozen pitch. So with the derby next week, here are the results from our friends in the Norwich League. Arsenal 8, Flaberdeen 10, Saka Spuds 4, Obi City 8, Truffle Shuffle Wanderers 10, Fenerbahce 3. Can you please congratulate town fan Ashley Page, who reached a healthy BMI this week after shedding an amazing 4 stone this week doing the Man v Fat football, which is brilliant. And you run all sorts of initiatives at the foundation for people with disabilities and all sorts of things. So there's lots of things going on at the club now for people of all abilities, isn't there?
There is. We want to be engaging with all aspects of our community. So if people want to get involved, contact Dan Palfrey, contact the foundation, and we'll tell you what we've got going on.
Brilliant. Mark, thank you very much. Thank you, boys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Capacity Crowd. Next week, we'll be back. It's our last one before Christmas next week. Some kind of reaction would have been nice there. You can be sad that it's the last one before Christmas, or pleased, I don't know. To keep in touch, check out our Live to Pitch socials on Facebook and Insta and X. On YouTube, please subscribe and like. It does make all the difference to keep the show going. And if you want presents for Christmas, we've got shirts and mugs on livetopitch.tv. You can buy those in time for Christmas. A big thank you even to our main sponsor, DPS Tech, also supported by All About Hearing. marketing company Ginger Pickle, Forward Floors, Come Hither Design, the Hudson Group, Sound 4 Pro Audio, Fred Olsen Logistics, John Keeble Cars, and they're here tonight, the Dove in Ipswich. Not many of them. And thank you, Capacity Crowd. We'll be back next week, up the town on Saturday against the Borough, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks down at the ground for the game against Norwich. Have a great night. Goodbye, everybody.